So our next speaker is Kaylee Byrne from Clemson University, and probably relatively neat fact for everyone else in this room is she's actually a neuroscientist. And after we've just heard now from Charlotte on some of the differences that we can find in these different generations, we're now going to get to hear a bit about how do we actually tailor our explanations and communications to one of these subgroups, and specifically we're going to be looking at some older adults. So whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Hi, my name is Kaylee Byrne, and today I'll be presenting my team's work on tailoring digital privacy education interventions for older adults, a comparative study on modality preferences and effectiveness. And this work ties in very well with Charlotte's work, who she just presented on, so I might reference your talk through this because it really does build on the work we did as well. So why do we need privacy education for older adults? Well, the WHO projects that by 2030, 1 in 6 people will be over the age of 60 years old. And according to the Pew Research Center, nearly 50% of older adults currently use social media. And this is largely a good thing because digital inclusiveness helps older adults stay socially connected, which has cognitive benefits in addition to psychosocial benefits. However, older adults often face challenges in maintaining their online privacy as compared to younger adults. And this can be due to several reasons. For example, lower digital literacy, lower familiarity with technology, as well as age-related cognitive changes like reduced speed of processing and lower working memory capacity. Essentially, maintaining online privacy adds to the cognitive load that individuals are tasked with, or older adults are tasked with, when they are using the internet. And so as a result, they're less likely to take active measures to protect their privacy. And so despite the importance of digital privacy education for older adults, little is known about how to train older adults to use privacy features and protect themselves online. So to address this gap, our team sought to design and implement novel digital privacy education interventions in order to understand how differences in older and younger adults' needs leads to preferences in terms of privacy education modalities. And so the goal was to help optimize the interventions for older adults and help them better protect their digital privacy. We had 2 specific research questions. The first was, how do perceptions and approaches to digital privacy differ between older and younger adults? And secondly, what features of different privacy education modalities are favored or disliked among older as compared to younger adults? To address these research questions, we created 4 different privacy education tutorials based on these 4 social media scenarios that were selected based on prior research showing that they were of high privacy concern for users. These are location sharing, publicly shared posts, online transactions, and targeted advertising. For each of these 4 different social media scenarios, we first created a text-based version of the privacy education tutorial. And then we translated that into 6 other different modalities, including an interactive tutorial, which is like what our university uses for information technology training for employees, like the point and click, watch a little speaker, point and click, Google the answer, etc. And then video, chatbot, infographic, comic, and then audio. Our design was in-person focus groups. There were 33 total participants, with 18 being younger adults aged 20 to 35, and 15 being older adults aged 63 to 93. So the focus group size was quite small, at about 3 participants per group. And the groups were divided so that they were either iPhone users or Android users, because we had to tailor the digital privacy education, like step-by-step instructions, to their device so that they could actually follow along if they so choose. So 2 scenarios were selected for each group. They were randomly selected. So for example, one focus group might see location sharing and online transactions. Another might see publicly shared posts and targeted advertising. For each of these scenarios, the focus groups always saw the text modality as a comparison, and then 2 other different modalities that were randomly selected, so that each group saw a total of 5 modalities and 2 scenarios. And the focus groups were about 90 minutes long, so they were quite intensive. They were audio recorded and then transcribed, and then we performed thematic analysis on the results. Here's an example, obviously a very scaled down version of one of the privacy education tutorials for location sharing. So we provided a description of the situation associated with high privacy concern, in this case, location sharing. So the scenario was, what could happen if you find the following ad on your Facebook feed? Receive 20% off your entire purchase when you visit us anytime this month. Enable location sharing and get directions. So we prompted the users to think about the situation. Then we provided some examples of the benefits and risks of engaging in location sharing, and then some additional information. We then provided 2 to 3 privacy protection strategies to address location sharing or to help individuals protect their privacy in this situation. For example, you can deny and turn on location sharing for this app within Facebook. So we provided those step-by-step instructions. And so many of the users would pull up their phone and try to go through it as we were presenting them. And then here is a screenshot. The video might look familiar. So these are just screenshots of location sharing for those 6 different modalities. There was a 7th, it was audio only. So the content was the same for each of the modalities. They were all designed to be about 4 to 5 minutes long across all modalities and all scenarios. It's just that the presentation of that content varied, depending on whether it was a video, of course captioned, chatbots, text, the comic, infographic, or that interactive tutorial. Diving into the thematic analysis results. So for research question 1, focusing on older adults' perceptions first, their perceptions of managing their privacy online. So this isn't their perceptions of the tutorials, it's their perceptions of managing their own privacy was largely negative. They expressed high privacy concern and limited understanding about digital privacy on social media platforms. Some quotes to illustrate this are, I don't understand how to protect my privacy on social media. I'm so concerned that if I click down to enable sharing and give directions, that not only will they get my location, they're also going to get my Visa card, my debit card, and my Social Security. And so their approach to this fell into 2 different categories. The first was to ask younger adults for help, so their children and grandchildren, to help with managing their privacy. And the second was avoidance, either avoidance of social media entirely or avoiding posting or engaging with it and kind of using it as just a content viewing platform only. In contrast, younger adults had more positive perceptions, they had lower privacy concerns, and had more confidence in managing their privacy or learning new protection strategies. As Charlotte mentioned in her talk, the previous talk, right? So their confidence doesn't necessarily translate into competence, right? So although in our sample we did observe a significant difference, such that older adults did have they had lower digital literacy compared to younger adults. Younger adults tended to feel overconfident in their ability to manage their privacy. They often had this view of, I just want to do the minimum of what I need to do and move on with it because there's nothing I can do to control it. So some example quotes are, on my laptop I have an ad blocker, so I don't care about the cookies. I would not use a third-party app that tracks location. And so their general approach is to try to use apps and technology tools to protect their digital privacy or to give them a sense that they're being protected. Okay. Research question 2, going into modality preferences for age group. Older adults largely preferred the videos. Younger adults preferred the chat bots and infographic. And everyone pretty much across the board, probably as expected, disliked the audio-only modality. They found it boring and difficult to keep all the content in mind, especially when going through those step-by-step privacy protection strategies. So why is this? Why are there age differences in modality? So I'd like to highlight some of there's many more in the paper, but some of the key themes that might provide some insight into this. So older adults valued personable content because they felt that it made it more relatable. For example, in this video, there's a person talking and explaining it. The person, it makes it more personable. They also valued repetition repetition of instructions and felt that the video offered that. So you might lose your train of thought. You can think about it before you go on by pausing the video. I like the idea that you can also go back again through the video. This theme wasn't specifically supportive of video, but it was a theme that emerged: strong content depth. For example, it says you could do even more to know why, but a lot of younger adults I work with don't want to know why. The older adults are aware, and in our sample, we're aware that they didn't have a good grasp of digital privacy knowledge, but they wanted to know. They wanted to know the ins and outs. Younger adults, some themes that emerged were a preference for interactivity to promote engagement. For example, this looks lively and kind of interactive. They also valued visual elements that they felt helped to maintain their or sustain their attention. So some key takeaways. So older adults do indeed perceive and react to interventions differently than younger adults. This could be due to differences in cognitive functioning, level of experience, and familiarity. Secondly, older adults benefit from a learning experience enriched with personal connection, and this may be why they often rely on younger adults for help with managing their privacy, because there is that personal connection. So we recommend using personal animated presentations that are neither highly interactive or excessively visual, because this allows older adults to sustain focus and comprehension. Finally, younger adults require a delicate balance between brevity and comprehensiveness. So we recommend making materials that are interactive and visually dynamic, and using a chatbot assistant to address queries. I'd just like to briefly highlight a paper that we have upcoming that is a follow-up to the one that we've presented here at PETS. It'll be coming out in Technology and Society in a couple months, and there we report the actual results, like actual learning and perceived learning of the tutorials with a separate sample. And then this is my colleague Bart and his contact information. He is the actual computer scientist on this paper. And then finally, Heba is a fifth-year graduate student. Much of this work was conducted by her. She is on the job market. She's open to either postdocs or industry positions. So I encourage you to reach out to her if you're looking. Thanks.
All right. Questions from in the room or online? Oh, okay.
And I'm right here. Hi. Great talk. I was wondering, in looking at the modalities, the presentation of the information, you mentioned that the content was the same. I guess I'm wondering, were these modalities being presented themselves on like a laptop versus a mobile device? You mentioned that some people were taking out their mobile devices. I was wondering if there was any analysis or kind of addressing of that potential difference, the sort of larger screen versus the smaller handheld device.
That's a great question. So in our focus groups, all of the tutorials were designed to be used on a full screen like laptop. And we didn't have any reports of not being able to see the items, but that could be a difficulty in translating that to actual use on the mobile phone. So that's definitely something that we could consider in future research, and figuring out how to make text size appropriate so that you can actually follow along step by step, and how that might influence the length of the tutorial as well, because you have to scroll more, then presumably it would take longer. So our design was designed for desktop. There could definitely be some differences with a mobile device transfer.
All right, let's thank the speaker.